This is Victoria, known for its warm weather and wildlife. It's a nice place for people to retire since it doesn't snow here almost ever. What it's not known for is poker. In fact, the only casino in town doesn't have a very good poker room. The rake is too high, the wait is too long, and that's a big problem for me since I'm 20 years old and studying in UVic. And I have other interests. Since poker is my primary source of income if I don't play well, I will go broke, which would drastically affect my life if that happened, so it won't happen. Okay, so hand number 1 starts with King 9 of clubs in middle position. There's 2 limpers to us, including an under the gun limper. We ISO to 17, using a little bit of a larger size ISO because people have a tough time floating at this game. And we're going 17 because it's easy for the limpers who already have $2 invested into the pot to call with 3 red chips. Instead of having to use change, if I made it 15, he may have to use 2 red chips and then 3 white chips. Or he would have to take back his bet and then put 3 red chips out, and I think psychologically the extra action having to readjust the chips in front of you make it less likely for you to call. Or what do I know? I don't know. So the plan doesn't end up working out because we go 5 ways to a flop, the cutoff button, small blind, and under the gun limper call. So we're 5 ways in the middle with $85 in the pot. So small blind and under the gun limper checks to me. So there's a few things happening here in this hand, so I just want to give you guys a clear glimpse of all the relevant information. A few of the players in this hand aren't very deep, maybe $200 effective-ish or less, or more. And second of all, most of the players in the hand aren't very aggressive, and they're going to flat hands like ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack instead of 3-bet. Third, the cutoff in position to me is an X510 Pro. So I think betting here is totally fine, but given the fact that some of the players here aren't very deep, and they're not the type of people to easily fold ace-x type of hands, especially if their flying range includes ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, then I think checking here is also totally fine. So I decide to check. And now the X510 Pro in the cutoff bets $45 into a pot of $85 into 4 people. So the first thing we should be asking ourselves is, what's his range? And second, if it's either a reg or a pro, what does our range look like to them? So, what's his range? As you can see, for strong hands, he can have pocket 6s for the set and then ace-6 suited and all combos of ace-jack for 2 pair. For middle, he can have pretty much only an ace or a flush draw. And the low strength portion of his range doesn't exist because he just bet into 4 people on the flop, unless you count maybe a baby flush draw. I'm too lazy to do another range chart, but basically it looks like we have a showdown value hand, like pocket pairs below the ace, or ace weak kicker to a reg where we check, or we have a complete whiff. He's probably not weighing us too heavily towards a flush draw because those might decide to c-bet. What are we going to do with all this information? The X Pro has around $230-ish left in his stack. If I check raise, I have to shove as my only size, since he's so shallow, using a 3x sizing is going to commit him on the turn to call off any ace. So I think it's really close between check, shove, and call here. He did just bet into 4 people, so he probably has at least an ace, and if we're lucky, he has a worse flush draw. But I think it's okay to go either way between check, shove, and call. If we call this bet, we're going to be less than 100 big blinds effective, and he's going to have a very strong range on the turn and river. So I think I can just donk lead into him if I make my hand, because it's going to be very hard for him to find any folds. So I do end up calling. The turn comes the ace of spades, the pot is now $175, and then it goes check check on the turn. So what's his range? I still think he has the same range on the flop as the turn. Other than the flush draw, there are really no draws on this board that trips would need protection from. I also think that if he was bluffing with a flush draw, he would shut it down now that the turn paired the ace, because I can conceivably have trips with a low kicker in my range, and no one ever tries to bluff you off trips because it feels suicidal when you're less than 100 big blinds effective. So basically his range hasn't moved at all. He's more than capable of checking trips back on the turn to bluff catch river or let me bluff. River now comes the 3 of clubs. I think against villain's range we have only one size. If we bet and that's to shove, there's no need to get fancy with a check raise because SPR is only slightly above 1 and we're pretty much targeting trips which are never folding. So I'm just gonna rotate.
All in.
Oh. Oh.
Oh,
226, please.
Oh.
226.
Alright, so this next hand, Villain tried to pull off the most insane bluff I've seen in a while. So I'm just gonna show you. So in this hand, I have pocket jacks in early position. There's a straddle on, and I raised to $20. Late position and under the gun straddler both call. So the late position player is just here for a good time, but the under the gun straddler is a good reg. Flop comes 5 of spades, jack of clubs, 8 of hearts. The straddle checks to me. I think bang here is totally fine, but I think it's hard to get caught by any hand here when I have 3 jacks. So I play it sneaky this time and check. Late position also checks, so 3 ways to a free turn card, which is the 2 of hearts. Now the under the gun straddler decides to bet $20 into the middle. His range is going to include hands that look like this. For strong, he's going to have all the combo draws here, queen 9 of hearts, queen 10 of hearts, etc. He's going to have lower sets, and then he's going to have 8-5 suited. For middle, he's going to have the last jack-axe hand, and the open-ended draws. For low strength, he's going to have random air and gut shots. Our range probably looks like missed overcards and showdown value, like pocket 10s and pocket 9s. Against a reg, we will consider what our range looks like. So, I think against this range, we're going to stack off against all the made strong hands anyway, plus the last jack-axe. If he's bluffing, his draws are in very poor shape, so I decide to just call, and then the late position player decides to fold. So the river comes to 4 of diamonds, and now the good reg bets $60 into 100, and I never noticed it at the time of recording, but he bet precisely 3 times the last bet he made, which was $20, which should be a smidget of an indication that he's slightly more weighted here as a bluff, since if he had a strong hand, he may or may not use a more precise sizing or a more creative size, since it's easy for your brain to just multiply your last bet by 3 or 2, and then push the chips in the middle really quickly to avoid looking like you don't know what to do. For example, if he went 85 or 75, then it would be slightly more weighted towards strength because it's a more quote-unquote thought-out sizing, and it's not completely related to the last bet in relation to being multiplied by 2 or 3. Anyway, at the time of recording, I was thinking that when we raise, we just want to go the largest size that we think the last Jack-X hand is calling, along with his made super strong hands, which I think is a mistake, because I think we should just be going egregiously large here to target his 2 pair plus hands, and if he folds a jack, he folds a jack. Instead, I raised to $200, thinking this is the sizing his entire made hand range calls. Now what happens is actually super interesting, because now the good reg 3-bet jams the river. And at first, I was super concerned that I was going to get coolered for $200 or $300. I think when 3-bets jam the river here, it's always just the nuts or second nuts. But you can see my reaction when I only have $80 left, and I didn't realize it, but I only have $80 left, so I'm just gonna roll the tape.
Let's see, let's see.
Wait, let me think about this. Wait, fuck! How much more is this? How much more is it?
So,
Oh, it's nothing
so
more.
Eric slow played jacks or 8s on the
Yeah, okay, take it. You win.
Oh my god.
What is
Pass the
it?
pot, bro. What?
Take it, Eric. Take
Oh.
it.
Oh.
You're a winner.
What?
Just
It was fucking-
Eric, what? If you're gonna call anyways, it's just.
I thought I had a lot
Why-
You
more.
wouldn't have got the river, though.
I thought. Okay, guys. So where have I been for the past month and a half? Maybe almost 2 months. I guess. I don't really know. I've had to make a visit to family out of country for a bit, and consequently, I've spent a significant portion of my bankroll, because my net worth is my bankroll, right? So we use a significant portion of my bankroll overseas, and then on top of that, at the same time, we're also on a downswing. So as you can see, we're not in the best financial position right now, but that's not gonna stop me. Now, I realize I have a couple of options. I can do the responsible thing. I can take an extra shift at work, excuse me, and then what will happen then is I'll be working majority of my time, and then poker will become part-time for at least a little while before I can switch it around again. So I'll be working 3 days instead of 2. And then that'll take the pressure off me financially. Then we have option B is what was say I threw out? I don't know. We could play 5-10. We're not gonna say which option I'm gonna do because that would ruin the suspense. Okay, so unfortunately I forgot to record this hand, but I'm gonna go over it with this drawing that I've created. So in this hand, the villain is playing a $100 stack. Villain's just a casual player, has the limping range, has face-up sizing, so when they open to $15, their range is just pocket 10s plus, maybe ace-king suited, but sometimes they limp-caw ace-king suited pre-flop, and sometimes they limp-caw pocket 10s pre-flop, so I'm a little bit concerned, but, well, you know, whatever. We're probably just gonna get in at this point, if they have a $100 stack. Now here's the interesting thing. If I 3-bet to any size, this person's just gonna rip in their entire stack. Like, I'm really confident they're just gonna rip it if I 3-bet. So I actually tried to click it to $30 here, trying to induce a call from the entire table with a code call from players like next to act, and then this person's gonna rip it, and then that'll reopen the action, and then I'll reshove my entire stack. That's the plan. So what happens is this guy folds, blah blah blah. We get 2 code callers for $30. The plan ends up working. This person just shoves now. Shoves for $100. I reshove here for $250. This person gets out of the way. This person caused the 250, so he caused my 3-bet, then over-caused the shoves. This person has pocket 5s. Villain has pocket jacks. I have pocket queens. We end up winning pre-flop, so that's pretty nice. So in this hand we peel ace of diamonds, queen of spades in EP. We decide to use a bigger open size. Even though this is a 1-2 game, people just don't fold, so I open to $15. The cutoff and the button call me as well as a small blind. The flop comes 10 of diamonds, 2 of spades, 2 of diamonds. It checks to me. I think I just need a bit more equity to bluff into 3 people on the flop, so I decide to check and evaluate. Now the cutoff, the X510 professional decides to bet 15 into 60, and the button calls. Okay, so when he bets into 3 people on the flop, the strongest hand he can have is ace-deuce suited, and he can't really have anything else than that because he would 3-bet pocket 10s. He's got a lot of medium strength hands like 10x, 10x with a king of diamonds, 10x with a queen of diamonds, then he's going to have pocket 9s through 7s. For bluffs, there are no natural bluffs on the spot other than maybe the flush draw, and he's got no super weak hands because he just bet into 3 people on the flop. The button ends up calling the cutoff's $15 bet, and the button probably has the same range as the cutoff. And now I decide between check raising the flop and check calling the flop with 2 overcards and the diamond blocker. I think you can go either way, but in a multi-way pot, I think our hand is just a little bit too weak to check raise into 2 people. I wouldn't fault you for check raising the flop, however I think it's just a little bit too loose. So I decide to play this as a check call. The turn comes the queen of diamonds. I think on this card, cutoff and button are both going to do a lot of checking unless they have a flush, since most of their range is showdown value or thin value now. Despite the flush getting there and me losing to trips, I think I have a hand that can go for value on all 3 streets. I actually decide to donk lead here for $80 into 105, trying to target a hand like 10x or 10x with king of diamonds to call the turn, and then I value bet river for super thin value because I think I can get called really thin. The cutoff now actually folds queen 10 suited. He later tells me he had a live tell on the button, who got super excited when I donk led $80. The button rips it in here for $215. The button, who is here playing for just a good time, probably just has a flush 9 out of 10 times here, and then 1 out of 10 times she probably has trips. But I need to call 135 to win whatever amount, so I just end up flicking it in here. And now I'm just going to run the tape.
One.
Queen deuce over once.
9 diamond. Oh.
We have pocket 10s in middle position, and we decide to make it $20 pre-flop in front of 2 limpers because no one folds in this game. We get caught by both the early position limpers who are here Just for a good time, they're just here to casually play cards. The flop comes 6 of spades, 8 of diamonds, 2 of hearts, and now the first early position limper checks and EP plus 1 limper donks 25 into 60. So a few things before we continue further into this hand. The player that donked into me tends to play face up. What I mean is that this player has a tendency to just donk lead their strong hands and then go bet with them. This player also, more on the passive side, doesn't usually go for triple barrel bluffs or double barrel bluffs too often, and they're really not that aggressive. And I just made it $20 pre-flop, so even just a player who's here just to be casually playing cards is gonna know that I have a strong hand and probably isn't donking multi-way too light, so I think that's a bit of relevant information. Okay, so at this point, I really don't think this player has any weak hands in her range when she donks multi-way. Especially when I raised massive pre-flop into 2 players. Most likely, in my opinion, most likely just has a strong hand like sets, 2 pair. She may have a straight draw, but she's also quite passive, so I don't know if she's leading her straight draws. And then maybe they're just going at it with like ace 8, maybe king 8, maybe 9-9. I don't really know what the game theory here says about this donk lead. Especially since I don't know any game theory, so I'm just gonna go with it. I do decide to flat, and now the EP limper folds and we take a turn. Turn brings the Queen of Hearts, and now she goes 25 into about 110. So the Queen of Hearts should be a complete brick, because if I was ahead or behind on the flop, nothing really changes. Even though it's an overcard, no one should have it in their range. The one thing that does concern me though is that if the EP plus 1 limper had led a hand like pocket 9s or ace 8, then I think on the overcard they would check and evaluate because they play more face up. So this is like a smidget concerning that there's a double barrel. The river now comes the 7 of spades, so now she bets 35 into 160, and there's a few interesting things happening. So first off, now if she was spazzing out with a hand like 10-9 or 5-4, now she definitely isn't bluffing. And if she had a hand like 9-7 or 7-5, she would take her imaginary showdown value at this point instead of bet. So at this point it's obvious this isn't a bluff. The question is, if I beat any value, she would have to be spazzing out with a hand like 10-8 or king 8 or ace 8, which I don't think she would, since she would check those on the turn, or probably wouldn't lead those hands to begin with, since I already ranged her on the flop and her range hasn't changed. Now I end up showing her my hand, and now I want you guys to pay attention to the tape when I roll it. Okay, no, I have pocket 10s. I've got pocket 10s, and you've just led into me all 3 streets.
57, if you're asking.
He's got 67 behind if you wanted to know.
Now that you've told her your hand, I'm not sure what your options here are, Eric.
No, I was never gonna bluff because I was never bluffing
You
here.
never bluff? Right.
Not this one.
Yeah, right.
So now it's time to ask the audience. Did you guys notice anything interesting about that tape I rolled? Here, I'm gonna roll it one more time, but I'll give you guys some pointers. Okay, no, I have pocket 10s. I've got pocket 10s, and you've just led into me all 3 streets.
57, if you're asking.
He's got 67 behind if you wanted to know.
Okay, so there's a lot of things to talk about here. First off, the nudging the chips into the pot. Now, if you show the player like a hand like pocket 10s and they're either bluffing, which is like for reasons that we said before unlikely, or if they're just spazzing out with a hand like ace 8 or king 8, I don't think they would just nudge the chips into the pot after you show them the winning hand. I think they would just stay super I don't think they would show that much confidence, to be honest. And second of all, the player offered me her stack without me asking for it. Like, I never asked for a count of what was left in her stack, and then she decided just to tell me what was left in her stack, which is, again, like, that just seems super confident to me. Like, if you had a losing hand, let's say she had a hand like king 8 suited that she spaz bet for whatever godforsaken reason, like, if I showed her pocket 10s, I really don't think, first, I don't think she would nudge the chips into the pot. I also don't think she would offer to tell me how much money is in her stack. I think realistically what would happen if she had the losing hand, she'd probably just keep silent and not say anything. Like, this just shows so much confidence. Unless like I'm being reverse-tailed, but I really don't think so. On top of everything, she's also cracking jokes and like laughing and looks super relaxed. So that's also a little bit concerning.
And I'm not sure what your options here are, Eric.
No, I was never gonna bluff because I was never bluffing.
You never bluff? Right.
Not this one.
Yeah, right.
This information, coupled with my player profile information that she's passive and doesn't usually triple barrel bluff, and the fact that this player, if she was bluffing, she would check her 9-7 and 7-5 since she now made a pair. This all makes me think unless she is somehow spazzing with Ace-8 or King-8, which I already discounted because I think she checked those on the turn, then despite the small size, 35 into 160, I don't think we're good here, so I just end up folding. Okay, so this 1-1 home game got a little bit degenerate. We're playing the progressive bounty game. I think at Poker at the Lodge they call it the fire truck game, but if you win 3 hands in a row you get $5 from everyone at the table. Win 4 you get 10, and then it just keeps going. So if you win 5, it doesn't double, you just get another 10, and then if you win 6 you get another 10. So far at this home game, I broke my own record. Because my previous record was 5 hands in a row. We were playing the progressive stand-up game that time at different places. But point is, I got 6 hands in a row, and then Jack, which I'll introduce to you, is trying to beat my record. So
Did twice, but the first one.
One time.
okay,
One time.
one time.
Okay.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
I do sack.
I got 10.
King 10.
Wow.
Oh wait, so we owe this kid $5.
boys.
$5. Phew.
If I don't have $5, do I still owe him $5?
No, you don't. It's okay.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Oh my god! Okay, this is actually getting a little bit insane, guys. Okay, Jack cannot beat my record of 6 hands in a row. I won't let him.
Well, we're close, Eric.
So Jack Strauss under the gun trying to win his 5th hand in a row. And I'm on the button with Queen 7 offsuit. I decide to limp in to defend the table's honor. The big blind also limps in, then Jack makes it 25 Dara. And I, of course, am not folding this beautiful premium. And then the big blind also comes along for the ride. So we are 3 ways in the single race pot.
It's actually the correct amount.
Actually,
Let me do my fucking job, Luke.
Okay, so now the board comes 9 of diamonds, 8 of hearts, and 6 of diamonds. And now, Jack decides to bet 125 into 76 on the flop. Okay, so Jack just went 125 into 76 into 2 people. So I really just think he's got strong hands and then super strong draws here. But we're playing $600 effective. So we're playing deep stacked, and with a straight draw and an overcard that may not be live. I just think that we're too strong to fold on the flop, so I just end up flicking it in.
Turning sit first and turning down.
you've gotta be trolling, dude.
Okay, so he decides to check the turn now, and I don't think this makes a lot of sense. Like, he overbets the flop saying he's got a strong hand, and now he checks the turn, and this makes no sense to me. But I still think there's a sliver of a shot he can have 7-5 or 10-7 and maybe a set, and he's just checking for pot control now, maybe? Or maybe he has a flush draw or straight draw. And I think against this range, and the pot is $325, I actually think we can bet small here, bet like $100 to try to induce a raise to really make sure, because I don't think he has a straight draw anymore after he checks the turn, but just in case, to really make sure, if we go 100, get him to raise all his straights, get him to raise all his sets, and then get him to call with his draws and his 2-pair. So then when we get to the river, we have a very profitable bluff when he has no strong hands in his range. So that's what I do. Now, I want you guys to know something really interesting when I bet $100 into 325. I want you guys to look at how fast he takes to call. He basically snap calls me. So that makes me think he hasn't even considered raising his straight. He hasn't even considered raising a set. So that makes me think he doesn't really have that in his range when he just snap calls my $100 bet. But what do I know? Okay, so now villain decides to donk lead 175 into 525 on the river when I make my straight. And yeah, I'm not a fan of how I played the river, to be honest. I actually just end up calling the river when he donk leads, but I actually don't like this play. I actually get roasted for it later on in the hand. I'm just going to show you guys the tape of what happens. I don't like the play where I just call the river. Toss. What you got?
Not a pair.
You got a pair?
Yeah.
Erica's a straight.
Straight. What? I was thinking if I could shove.
I had a holy draw.
I think you
Had a
probably.
straight flush draw.
The straight flush draw, 10, 8 of diamonds.
I think you probably could shove there.
Okay.
Definitely you shove
When are
it.
you ever beat?
He doesn't have 10-7 ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also...
Like, should go for it too. I
Main
think.
click it, bro. Exploitative main click.
It doesn't hurt to go for it, you know? Like, there's no
I'll take
beat
it.
really ever.
Fucking
Also, your image is horrendous.
Oh, that's true. My image is
Wait,
horrendous.
garbage. Show that to the block.
Yeah,
Suck.
yeah. I'm
Decent
just a
rag.
nit. I'm just a nit for just calling.
Yeah, that was pretty nitty, bro. Like the.
Dude, I thought you were just like
What are we
posturing to
thanking
jam.
for? Yeah, that's what I thought so
No.
too.
Second nut
I don't know
tank.
why you're.
Put it in the vlog, pal.
So in this hand we're playing a POO double board bomb pot with 5 cards, and we're on the button, and it checks to us on the button, and we just check it back. Okay, now the middle position decides to bet into the table on the turn for $10 into 21. The cutoff calls, and with a straight and nothing else on one board, I think we could probably go either way between raising or just calling. I mean, the bottom board doesn't really change that much, so it makes me think someone else also has ace 10, because if no one bet the flop on the bottom board, I feel like it hasn't really changed. So I think someone else just has ace 10 here. So I'm thinking if I raise, I'm just going to squeeze out one of the persons that doesn't have ace 10, and then we just end up chopping the board. So I actually end up just calling. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm tired of all this analysis. Alright, I've been doing too much of it. There's too much editing involved. I'm just gonna run the tapes and I don't know, talk through it. So the river on the top board comes to ace of spades, and the bottom board comes to queen of diamonds. Middle position checks, cutoff checks, and now it's on me on the button. And okay, my thought process at the moment was that I thought I'm trying to get them off a chop, because I thought I was good on the top board, probably, but I actually, now that I think about it, probably not, because someone could have a backdoor flush. But anyway, I decided to pot it, which is probably a bad idea, because we just don't have a good enough hand, but what, I don't know. Potamus, Harry Potamus,
$51. Don't touch it.
I honestly think I'm losing
Wingardium
to you,
Potinator Potamus.
What the hell, bro?
Well, it's $51.
That's what I.
Oh my god, he's gonna spaz.
Did I
Okay.
not say 51?
What?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's saying.
I don't think
I
so.
said 51 like 20 minutes ago.
Levitus
51
Potinator Potomatus.
Because the pot's
Hey, put it
51.
in, dude. Put it in.
Potta.
Please put it in
Okay,
there.
fine.
Eric, please put it in. Eric, put it in.
Good boy,
Can I
Eric.
turn off
Just
the
gotta
flame?
put my hand in the frame. I'll get all the girls, bro.
Okay. Wait, so the guy on my left is single, in case anyone wants to. You wanna go on YouTube? You wanna go on YouTube, Luke? You wanna go on YouTube? Okay.
I hit one of like the.
Okay, the guy on my vlog, single, looking for a partner,
hold on.
has to make at least 100K in salary.
Fold.
Yes.
Hey, flip.
I'm making at least 10 bands.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I win.
That's straight, and
sure I win.
he
I
has...
have trip fourth here.
So we chop. Okay.
What do you mean you're pretty sure you win?
I win half the board. I'm pretty sure I win half the
Yeah,
board.
you're pretty sure you win, period.
I meant half the board.
Straight.
I have trip fourth.
Trip force.
Call 46. Okay, Anton, do you have a pair?
I have.
He's got money behind. He's got money behind.
Oh,
there's still
okay.
options.
All in blind.
You're in position.
Oh, this is so
Okay,
sick.
shit.
This is actually
Shit,
sick.
wait, Anton, do you have a pair?
One time.
You're drawing dead.
Anton, I need a heart.
You're
I need a
you're
flush.
dead. You're dead.
I need a flush.
He has a set. Retarded.
I mean, it's just better.
So in this hand we have pocket nines in middle position. Anton in early position opens to $15 because the $5 button straw is on. I just flat, and then everybody else folds, so we're heads up in position. So the flop now comes 9 of hearts, 3 of clubs, 2 of hearts, which is above average flop. And now Anton checks it to me. Okay, so for strong hands, maybe he's checking an overpair with a heart, but with SPR being so small with the Stroud pot, I think he's just incentivized to go bet with all his strong overpairs, so I'm not sure. And then he's going to have some draws, like flush draws, that he's going to protect his range with, and then he's going to have has like 4 or 5 for the straight draw, because he can open wide enough for that. And then he's going to have a lot of missed overcards, like a majority of his range when he opens from under the gun, and then checks on this flop, it's going to be lots of missed overcards. Alright, so against that range, we're just going to go a really small size and try and get him to float with his overcards or maybe induce a bluff. So I go $5 into 35.
$5.
Get her up.
If you yak, it's no fucking.
Are they that strong?
They're 12.
Raise.
I don't know. I don't.
And over here we have a surprise flop 3-bet. We're just gonna force his overcards to float one more street here. Okay, so the turn brings the 5 of hearts, and at this point, he's got about 211 in his stack. So, looks like we're not gonna be able to commit him on the turn. But I think right now his range is going to be still having a lot of missed overcards, but those missed overcards could potentially have the Ace of Hearts, could potentially have the King of Hearts. And I think that's the range that we want to target when we bet. And he's got 211 left in his stack here. Shoving seems a little bit overkill, considering the pot isn't that big. But I do decide to go $80 to try to commit him. If he calls with like an Ace of Hearts, King of Hearts hand, he's basically screwed because he's not getting the right odds to call. So that's what I do.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
6 or
8
7.
painters,
80.
1 ag guy, 2 door-to-door
Great
reps.
Of course.
So
That's
yeah.
not you.
This
Yeah,
sucks.
probably got it.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you have? Just a skill game.
Okay guys, this project took me way too many hours for me to justify. So 1 subscriber equals 1 prayer for me to get out of this downswing so I can pay for my tuition in a few months. Please guys. Okay, thanks for watching.